Well, hey, good morning. Happy Monday. It's February 17th. This is the Blue Gamer Bluecast Morning Show. I'm your host, Adam Blue, 30 plus year video game enthusiast and industry analyst. and yeah, I've got the curtains open. You can see the sun, and it's very interesting. So, certain times of year, obviously, the sun is in certain places, and I think over the weekend, I noticed now when the sun rises, it's more to my left and it will be a little higher up instead of right in front of me and across. Because normally during the winter, I think, mostly, especially on the other end of the winter solstice, I have to like close the blinds during the day because the sun will be on me. And it was just nice that the sun can be out, but it's not blinding me. Just, a morning thing. You got to appreciate those little things in the morning to kind of make your day good. Because, yeah, crazy weekend. I mean, normal weekend, but playing two very neat games that I cannot wait to talk more about. And one I'm going to go into a little more detail of. Hey, Talos Mobius, good to see you in the chat. Hopefully you had a good weekend. Okay. Yeah, I guess that might be the case. Then I'll jump into what I've been playing. All right. So here we go. What I've been playing. Basically just Guns of Fury and Smurfs 2. I didn't even drop into any Godzilla since Friday, which is fine. I've had so much fun playing these two games, so we know Blue Gamer has this kind of recent, Smurfs sort of cinematic universe going on. No, I'm joking, but I played that first one, beat it, great. The second one, I'm 5 hours and 19 minutes in, but if we look at the previous game, 5 hours and 27 minutes, and I beat it. And I'm not done yet, so the second one is a longer game. I will say that works against it, though, and it's very interesting because I feel like each world is a little longer than it needs to be. The game has a really good flow of shooting crystals, using the different, abilities around you to manipulate the environment, to platform around to get to the next place to shoot enemies. And it's a great, satisfying loop. It's so good that the only thing bad about it is it gets repetitive, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go play something else. But I'm also the type that I don't tend to play games. There's usually a specific window, maybe like after an hour. Sometimes I will move on. Oh, hey, Chris, good to see you. So tell us about this week. It was pretty good. Excited for the next one, though. Might be visiting the Bare Bones Science team this coming weekend, hopefully. So excited for this week to be over already. Yeah, you'll have to detail some of the things you get into there. I'm really curious what's there. More details. I know you told me some about it. It's pretty cool. And that idea actually reminds me of the Smurfs 2 thing, because like in Smurfs 2, it's like these games do really do a good job of putting you in this world, and you're kind of exploring and figuring it out, and like using the different tools you have. And there's mining essentially because you're destroying crystals and all that. So it has a very good. It's very interesting because I've heard, from I remember this question. I forget, it was in a video game magazine. It might have been online. It's a long time ago. I just remember thinking, is it possible that a video game can be made where it's not about combat? And I think Smurfs are almost there. I think the first one is less combat. The second one has combat because you're shooting crystals at enemies, but I feel like there's ways that you can make it where it's not combat and it's more of like, power wash simulator or something. I don't know. Anyway, I should be beating this game soon, hopefully. It's kind of taking its time. Okay, so in between, kind of getting tired of some Smurfs 2 after, playing for about 30, 45 minutes, I jump into Guns of Fury. Guns of Fury. I almost feel like it's a miracle. I want to hear, okay, P.S. It is possible for games to not have combat. There's a lot of them out there that I may enjoy a lot. Yeah, it's funny because off the top of my head, I can't think of any, but I know there are those that exist. So, because you would think, oh, well, Mario's a cute game, but yeah, you're jumping on Goombas and killing them, Anyway, so Guns of Fury is the best case scenario for directly fusing Castlevania Symphony of the Night specifically with Metal Slug. So let me kind of show you something here. If we type in Castlevania into Exophase, we could see back in January I was playing Symphony of the Night. I have 34 hours and 27 minutes. That's probably Rondo of Blood also. And then like last year, November, I was playing Lament of Innocence, 26 hours in the Dominus Collection. I'm every month nearly. And again, if I play a game, it then removes the previous, entry because it updates it. But I mean, I'm constantly playing Castlevania games. Last year, in 2024, I played through Harmony of Dissonance 3 times. Right here. So in this, it's funny because this is, but I don't know if I did it in the Game Boy Advance collection. I need to do that next actually, because that one I think was up here. Yeah, the Advance collection, because I beat Circle of the Moon in October. So I'm using this to kind of show I am totally into Castlevania. I know Castlevania really well. Well, here's another thing. Metal Slug. Last year, Metal Slug Tactics. I played 18 hours of Metal Slug Awakening, which came out last year. Metal Slug 7, Metal Slug 4, 3. See, we're in August of 2024. I played like every single one in August. Wow, I played, every single one in August. Down to March. Yeah, I play a lot of Metal Slug. So I wonder if between Metal Slug and Castlevania, those were the most I played of a single IP. So what Guns of Fury does is literally take Castlevania and Metal Slug, and I had some gameplay I think on Friday, but I've got like how much time? 5 hours into it. I'd say I'm about halfway through the game. I think the map says. I think the last time I remember the map saying something was like 43%, and then I played a little more since then. And so there's some differences between Castlevania and Metal Slug in terms of combat, because in Metal Slug you're attacking from afar. Castlevania it's more close range. Castlevania also has and I don't know how to, and I guess I'm talking through this because I do want to make a video about this, but when you're playing Castlevania and you're going through like a corridor, I mean, there's tons of enemies everywhere. There's platforming, but the platforming is light, and the way the combat works and the jumping makes you so good at it that when you're platforming, you're usually getting to where you need to quick to get to the next area. This is the same way, and I think it's neat that Guns of Fury, then you get a double jump, just like in any Metroidvania, but I was curious how it would affect the gameplay. And what it does is it actually doubles down then on it being a Symphony of the Night sort of clone in a way. Because in the Castlevania Symphony of the Night games, you're going through corridors, attacking enemies. A lot of times there's like jumping and then double jumping to maneuver yourself to just avoid particles or projectiles, to avoid enemy fire, to avoid touching an enemy. There's this fluidness in Symphony of the Night and other Castlevanias where you're jumping, attacking, double jumping, getting to the platform. Metal Slug not Metal Slug, Guns of Fury has that exact same feeling, even though it is Metal Slug shooting. What's cool is like in Metal Slug, if you're like close to an enemy, they take out the knife to fight. In this, you have a button for the knife. So it's really nice that it better than I've seen it done, combining its Metal Slug gameplay with Castlevania. So there will be some areas where I will just go through and then double jump just to pass the enemies. Although in a Castlevania game, Symphony of the Night, you're wanting to attack the enemies for XP, right? Symphony of the Night does the XP thing. In this, you don't get XP, but you're constantly being dropped money, and that's kind of how you're farming the money, and the money is what's used for I would say it's used for not the abilities in the game, but for upgrades for your weapons. So so it has the shop like Castlevania, but I think the more pivotal weapons are there, although you kind of don't need them, but they would be harder without them. Bosses are amazing. They remind me, again, of Castlevania bosses where sometimes I'll just beat the boss on the first try, a lot of times. But then I'll get to a part where I'm like, okay, this boss actually is taking me out. I really have to spend my time and memorize everything. And I'm up against a boss like that right now. That's like that. So there's so many things, especially like, oh, my health is low and I just press start, go to items, have a slice of cake for health. Exactly like Castlevania. Some of the abilities I got are knee pads, so you can crawl on the ground or slide on the ground to go underneath. You know, that's I think what they did with that in Symphony of the Night was transferring to a bat, so you were small enough to go through those little corridors. You get the double jump. You get gloves for climbing, because there's some areas where you can't jump high enough, but you can see on the wall there looks like there's handles or just gravel that is made, or rocks protruding that's made to climb on. So that's another thing where and the flow is excellent, because I'll be somewhere and be like, okay, I can't do this stuff yet, so let me go continue. And then I'm like, oh, I got this stuff, now I can go back. I mean, the game, I think Guns of Fury knew how to double down on the feeling of progression, of backtracking, but immediately being where you need to, or knowing where to go. And I will get lost. I've gotten lost sometimes, and it's that same feeling of, Castlevania, Metroidvania. There is fast travel. You'll come across these trucks that you just press up on the truck, just like, I mean, it's funny how much it is. It's almost like they just swap textures, and it's almost the same game. I mean, not entirely, but it's just, the point I'm trying to make is, I think Guns of Fury is a huge deal for video games right now, because I don't, a lot of times a game says they want to do this and do that, but they kind of do their own thing. And actually, that's kind of unique sometimes. It's like, okay, you're kind of like this, but you're really not. But you are your own thing, and that's okay. But Guns of Fury literally is Symphony of the Night and Metal Slug. And I love it. I mean, it would be hard for it to not be my game of the year. Now, are there any downsides to it? I'd say it's hard to say if there's any downsides. I'm not 100% on board with the art direction, but it's so close to looking like Metal Slug anyway. I kind of don't care. I mean, and I guess this is more for like the designs of like characters and stuff. I would say like the world, the tanks, the buildings, everything looks good. I'm splitting hairs there, because really it looks good. I'm trying to find something bad about it. So far I can't. In my little playthrough of over the weekend, while I play little Smurfs, jump into Guns of Fury, then I would be like, okay, well, let me get into some back into Smurfs for a little bit, and I'm like, no, I want to play more Guns of Fury. Also, just the hidden items in the walls, just shooting walls, again, another Castlevania staple. I have found major items in walls. I remember there was this one corridor I was in, and I just shot up at the ceiling, and there was a very powerful grenade item. And I was like, there would be nowhere where else to get this. Other things you'll find, and actually this kind of reminds me of Metroid, is you'll find, I mean, I guess it's the same thing with Castlevania, but like in Metroid and Castlevania, you get like the health things that level you up. In Castlevania, a lot of times, it's like the blue, bigger, potion-looking thing. Those would just be like sitting in places. It might not have been blue, it might have been the colored one, I forget. But in Metroid, you'd usually shoot a wall to see, a little E-tank or whatever. And it does that in this, where you shoot the wall or ceiling, and then you'll find a little energy tank. The map is just like Symphony of the Night, and it has a pin system, so I can pin things, and it's great because I'll be somewhere, I'm like, okay, I gotta come here later. On my map, it's showing that this section has already been cleared, but I need to notate this, so I'm glad it has the pins. Anyway, just talking through Guns of Fury, the game is excellent. And the other thing, I'm going to check something out here. I really want to see how people are potentially talking about it. Let Let's see. On Steam. Let's see. It's got very positive reviews, which makes sense. Oh, and here, if you guys want to see, just look. This is a boss I beat. This is one that did take me multiple times, and it was, at the end of the day, it was strictly memorizing all the combat. Okay. Which gun should I use here? Interesting. I don't want to be spoiled. I'm just trying to see, like, yeah, people just talking about the game. I mean, every hour there's posts, people talking about the game. It's just, I don't see it being talked about that much. But I wonder how much that has to do with the generation, maybe. Like, this speaks specifically to me. But then again, you know, games like Symphony of the Night and Metal Slug, when they came out, were amazing. Not only amazing looking, but they had a really good gameplay loop. So just, you know, curious if it's that big of a deal. Okay, so let's say I got a hold of this franchise and I was told, hey, you got to market it. I would probably change the name. I think Guns of Fury almost seems a little too generic to really know what it's talking about. You know, yeah, you get Castlevania is a great name, and then Symphony of the Night, you know, that sticks out. Guns of Fury, even kind of the artwork on here, like the artwork is good, but there's really nothing that sells this world to me. And maybe, okay, maybe I've come around to what it actually is. There seems to be this emptiness of this world, and not in the world, but in terms of the presentation, jumping into the game. You know what? Someone actually made a really good comparison. Maybe this is what I'm feeling here. So someone was talking about Avowed that's coming out recently, and they were comparing it to Dragon Age Veilguard, that they both feel like you're walking onto sets, that you're not like in a real world, but you're like in a theme park of sets, and it's still fun. And I almost feel like that's what Guns of Fury is. It's almost like here is your Metal Slug Castlevania, you know, and that's the set. So anyway, great game. Okay, let's jump into some news, shall we? Okay, GTA 6's PC release date is early 2026. Corsair Gaming believes. Let's see. Now, speaking in its latest financial results, Corsair Gaming's finance VP, I don't know. I think it's supposed to be finance VP. Ronald Van Veen had this to say, yeah, GTA 6 is probably the one everyone's talking about, and we'll get a glimpse of that, I think, later on in the year for console. My understanding now, it's going to come out in the fall for console, then early 2026 for PC. Okay. Then that's pretty good. Early 2026 would make sense, because I think it took GTA 5 a lot longer. So, okay. That's the news for that. Okay, yeah. I thought there would be more to it. Phil Spencer provides rare update on missing in action Xbox exclusive Everwild. I completely forgot about this. It's a game Rare is working on. They revealed it 3 years ago. Excuse me, let's see. Asked to name the in-development game he's most looking forward to, Spencer. So I'll get back to what I said earlier. Yes, State of Decay is just one of the franchises I love back from the original one, so that one stays on board. I do think the work Double Fine is doing. I'll say, because I was recently out at Rare, it's nice to see the team with Everwild and the progress they're making. It's been a while, and we've been able to give those teams time and what they're doing, which is good, and still have a portfolio like we have. It's like a dream that Matt Booty and I have had for a long time, so it's fine. It's finally good to be there. We can give those teams time. That sounds like a lot of corporate fluff, even though I like Phil Spencer. What is he talking about? Okay. Back in 2021, restarted from scratch. Okay. They were targeting a 2024. Huh. but they want to make sure they have something special before showing the game publicly again. Well, I hope it's then one of those things where it's something that is taken seriously and not just like they kind of don't care, like Redfall. We will see. All right, Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves adds DLC characters. I was not expecting this. I think it's really cool how much we see Capcom and SNK doing things together all the time. And I wonder how much it has to do with maybe legacy staff that worked at both and they're all cool and they're just like, hey, let's just like have all these characters in the same worlds and all that. I mean, they share artists, which I think SNK and Capcom art, especially in the 90s, is some of the coolest artwork to see, especially when, you know, getting the video game magazines and seeing that art because it was just so well done, so unique, so different. And, you know, this is cool. I enjoy fighting games. I will be getting City of the Wolves. I remember buying Mark of the Wolves on Dreamcast. That was such a huge surprise when that came out on Dreamcast. And I didn't know about it at first, though. I guess it was more of they announced, you know, Mark of the Wolves came out on Dreamcast, and it was an SNK game, and I was like, wow, this feels really good. Yeah, SNK games have this sort of weirdness to them where they can feel stiff, but if you know the character, I guess if you know the character right, you can learn how to like kind of free flow them. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty cool. So Ken and Chun-Li, the other characters, you know, I know of them, but you know, they're not that big of a deal to me. Yeah, it's like one of those things where, you know, when a fighting game comes out, especially from a specific IP, it's like you have an expectation of what characters to be there. Yeah, okay, let's move on. Sony's PS5 live service title Fair Games has reportedly slipped. So this is another one completely forgot about, but I'd hear about it every once in a while. Haven Studios' debut title is reportedly now targeting a release next year. So I'm sure. Oh, and that's according to Giant Bomb journalist Jeff Grubb, who claimed in a podcast this week that the co-op heist shooter, first 900 years ago, has been eternally delayed into 2026. Yeah, Jeff Grubb, he's the type that you can trust him with a grain of salt. He usually is getting inside information, but it's not that the insider information is actually accurate. And it's bit him in the butt a couple times, famously or infamously. Last year during the Perfect Dark thing, I was in their chat while he was saying the news about Perfect Dark. I'm like, well, this sounds more like speculation than it does news. And in fact, he got then called out for that, I think a day later in a journal saying, you know, Jeff Grubb is just speculating on things that are not true. And they banned me from the chat. And it's almost like a peer-to-peer thing. It's like, hey, we're both covering video games, but you know, you probably shouldn't speculate and then make that the news, especially when it's like a negative rumor. I don't know. It's one of those things, you know, I cover video games and I like to rely on others that I can then get my information from, even though I like to cover it too, but it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to speculate wrong or say the wrong thing, but then to try to cancel people, you know, that's when it's like, oh, okay, should I really be following this guy? But I see Jeff Grubb's name pop up in an article of some information, I'm like, okay, I'm going to assume they vetted what he's saying, you know, to a degree. So, Fair Games will give you an opportunity to break the rules as a modern-day Robin Hood, a thrill seeker, and someone who just wants to collect cool loot. I don't know. You know, when video games are being... Oh, yeah, who was it that told me that? I think it was Steven. If you can describe what your game is quickly, then it's probably not good, or something like that. Or something along those lines. Okay, moving on. Tides of Annihilation was released on Xbox, and then it wasn't. What? So this is the one that I thought looked good because that character stands out. One, yeah, I guess it's a waifu-looking girl, but it's more to it. It has less of an anime look and more of like a realistic person look. But it was interesting. So apparently it was up on the Xbox store for $22.49. And oh, okay. My phone wanted to tell me about the game. Interesting. Let's see, 300 MB place. Okay, so it's more of like he probably just messed up the placeholder, but I definitely want to play this game. I definitely do. So another thing. Oh, let me go back to this. Talos is talking about something as simple as farming simulator is really good, and a lot of the recent farming or market owning simulators are good for helping younger individuals to get better with money handling and such. Yeah, that's a good point. I think, there's so many people that learned advanced math or statistics based on, video games they're playing that do that as part of their gameplay, But No Man's Sky, you can choose to never fight by turning off combat, and it's still an excellent game. Yeah, that's good. Hey, what's up, Jim KillX? Yeah, and so that's what I'm wondering. Like, can you make a game like Fortnite, but you're not killing or you're not fighting? Like, and it could be where you're shooting a substance and you're supposed to be, it's like it could feel like what combat would feel like, but that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be combat because it's just a case of holding controller, aiming, and pressing buttons. So it's like, could you do a third-person shooter control scheme, but you're not in combat? I think it would be very interesting for video game developers to come up with a way to make a game give you that feeling you'd get in combat-based games, but it not be combat. I don't know how that could work. So another thing real quick, Elden Ring Night Rain. I'm a huge Souls-like fan. Although I bought but didn't even bother with this last the Elden Ring DLC. I don't know what it is. I got back into that world. It was my New Game Plus, and I was like, I've did my time here. I've done my time. And it was so funny because I finished the game March of 2022, the day before I went on a 10-day silent meditation retreat. And I felt like I really sort of settled with I've completed Elden Ring. So yeah, when I jumped back into it, I just kind of felt like, the DLC. But this Night Rain is interesting because it's basically a 3-player, you drop in on a map like Fortnite, and then you just run around, but there's no fall damage. You're faster in the game. When you go up to a bonfire, they have a different name in Elden Ring. You don't have to press anything. You just go up to it and touch it, and it activates. Also, when you level up, you don't put stats to specific points. So pretty much what it sounds like is this, and bear with me for a second, this Elden Ring Night Rain has devolved into what Souls fans have not wanted a Souls game to become. But since this is something that's kind of different, it's a 3-player co-op multiplayer roguelike, then that's okay. So I think it's cool that they can come out with, okay, here's this combat, which to me, the Souls games are about their combat system. Yeah, sure, you're leveling, you're in this world, it's open world, you can die, it's hard, but it's how cool the combat system is, at least for me. So what you're doing is you're getting this multiplayer game where it is Souls-like combat. The interesting thing, though, is it's these characters that you choose from. It's almost like a hero shooter, and they all have their alts. So as you're playing, then you can use your alts. I don't know. I'm to be honest, I'm not interested in playing Night Rain, but when it comes out, I'll see what people are saying. It's the same thing with Helldivers 2 when I was like, I don't know if I'd be into that, and then it ended up being something cool because it was unique and different while almost being the thing you expected to exist. Anyway, sorry about that. Well, I think that's about it for today. Not too much crazy news, really, but I do like to do some chatting. So yeah, we talked a little bit about, I guess my crazy, 2024 was all about Metal Slug and Castlevania, and then Guns of Fury comes out, and it's like exactly what I want, and I want to see it bigger, but I really do think it needs a different name, and I think the main graphic that you see that represents the game, it needs to be something different. But then what do you do? Do you market it to Metal Slug enthusiasts? Do you market it to Castlevania enthusiasts? And it's interesting. The Metal Slug enthusiasts that come across this game are disappointed because I've been reading comments or they want a stage-based game. The Castlevania enthusiasts that find this game love it because it is exactly like Symphony of the Night. It's very interesting. Excuse me. Anyway, I'm going to head out, guys. That was a lot of fun. I will see you all tomorrow. And okay, we can see where the sun is now. So, yeah, it might still, for a couple weeks, get in my way. But, yeah, anyway. I'm going to head out. We will talk later.